Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be going over this painting that I made for last October and embracing the fact that fall is indeed here. So let's get started. So I talked about this a little bit in a previous video and I will link that now, but obviously fall is here and I need to just accept it. It is spooky season, and as much as I am kind of like resisting it and bitching about it, fall is actually my favorite season, so I don't know why I'm being weird about it. It just feels like the year is going by too fast, and this is my little protest for it going too fast, but I need to stop because the leaves have started changing colors. I've actually been taking pictures of them and posting them on my story on Instagram, and I am actually very excited for fall and spooky season. So I'm going to embrace that. And with that said, this is a witch that I did last October for spooky season. And now that I am embracing that spooky season is here again, I'm actually going to start creating some new ones so I don't have to just keep showing ones that I created last year. But this particular piece is one that I actually really enjoyed creating. And I did things a little bit differently than I normally do. Rather than creating a base sketch and then refining that sketch a little bit and then inking and then doing most of the detail work via color, I actually did a pencil sketch, and I made that sketch in the refining stage. I made it much more detailed with like hatching for shading and things like that, and the inking stage was sort of a step that was just used to refine edges. And funny enough, I remember very distinctly loving the process and liking the outcome. And the color was used just to kind of enhance what was already done with the lines. And I thought to myself, I really like this and I'm going to do a lot more of this. And then I proceeded to just never do it again. This was the last time I did a piece in this way, using these techniques. And now, of course, going back and watching the video again, I remember thinking that I wanted to do more like this, and now I actually am going to. So be prepared for a little bit more of this process and perhaps more explanation of the process here in the near future. For this particular piece, I know I used the 6B pencil for the sketching phase, as well as for the refined sketching phase, where I did the hatching for shading and did a lot more detail work using the 6B pencil. And then for the ink lines, I did use the Magic Kohl brush, which is part of a purchased brush pack that I have spoken about before and will be linked in the description box below. I also did the coloring using the Soft Wash Flow brush, which is part of the same brush pack that I purchased, and again will be linked below. This was another one of those pieces where I wanted to keep my brush selection very minimal, so I only used those 3 brushes, and then I did what I could with those brushes. I wanted to keep the color palette sort of muted and keep all of the colors sort of within the same like range of each other, so that the work that was done using the brush or the pencil strokes, the hatching and the detailing using the pencil sort of stood out, and the color again was just used as a support rather than to make the entire piece, which is my normal style. And with the pencil and ink lines, I've spoken about this before, but I actually don't normally use the multiply layer. I do put the lines above the coloring in the layer selection, but I usually use linear burn. I find multiplied to be a little bit too flat for my liking, and linear burn, although they are extremely similar, it does add a little bit of color variation in the line based on the colors that you put below the lines, and that's an effect that I really like. But I believe you could probably use multiply or linear burn, whichever method you prefer. And this particular concept was one that just kind of came to me. It's very simple. It's not really mind-blowingly original or anything like that. I just really wanted a sweet portrait of like a witch and her companion. And I wanted most of the detail work just to be within the witch herself, and I also wanted to kind of challenge myself to do snakeskin because that is something that is a little bit difficult for me, something that I don't do a lot. I also wanted to add more textures to her outfit than I'm normally used to try and play with sort of the texture of like the fishnet against the snake scales and how they're similar but different and things like that. Again, I really liked the process of this because even though it was not a super original idea and it's not crazy detailed or anything like that, it did allow me to kind of play with ideas and do different things than I normally do, and that's where I personally feel the most fulfilled as an artist. So that is something that I definitely suggest highly suggest to anybody who is an artist, especially if you're feeling any kind of like stuck or bored with your art or anything like that, is just create a piece that might not be the most original thing on the planet, but allows you to play with different ideas, do things that you don't normally do, maybe draw things that you don't normally draw, and just experiment and see how they turn out. So this is going to be just a sweet and simple video. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the drawing process now. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and I will speak to you in the next one. Thanks for watching.